This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Right, let's start today's session. So in the last session, we were discuss about array concept. So how to create array with array module and how to create array with NumPy module. And today we will discuss about how to create multi-dimension or two-dimension array using NumPy module. So two-dimension array is only possible with NumPy module. So only array module is there. So we have creation of arrays. For creation of arrays, we have array module is there. Using array module, we can create only single dimension arrays, and two-dimension arrays is not possible. To create two-dimension arrays, we use NumPy module. So let's try to create one two-dimension arrays, and what are the basic operations are there with the two-dimension arrays. We will see that. So import NumPy. Import NumPy, import NumPy. Then array name equals to a NumPy dot array, NumPy dot array of. So here no need to give any type code. So while creating single dimension array with array module, we have to mention type code, but here type code is not required. So directly we can create number of rows, number of columns. For example, here this is one row. Next, here I'm saying one another row. Next, another row. So here row 1, row 2, row 3. Three rows are there available here. Okay. So 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. Three rows are available here. Next, you can able to split like this also, but anyways, both are same. So this is two-dimension array creation. Then print A, print A. So let's try to print. This is two-dimension array. This is two-dimension array. So if you want to know here type of A, so type of A, so that is integer type. Sorry, NumPy ND array, number of dimensions array like this. Here print A dot D type, that means data type of array. So what is the data type of array here? Integer. Now print A dot size, size of the array. Size of the array means 9, because number of rows multiply with number of columns. Next, print A dot ndim, that means number of dimensions. How many dimensions are there? Two dimensions. One is row and another one is column. Two dimensions are present here, number of dimensions. Next, print A dot shape, shape of the array. What is the shape of the array? How many rows, how many columns it will be there? So that is going to called as shape of the array here. So 3 rows, 3 columns, shape of the array. Number of dimensions 2, like ndim. Size of the array is what? 3. Number of rows and into number of columns. And type of array is what? Integer. So data type of array. And what type of array it is? NumPy array. So NumPy dot nd array is there. So this is what basic operations we can do that this two-dimension array here. So another important thing is in this two-dimension array. So for example, what we can say, I want to find out sum of the array or maximum array, all those things we can find out. But the thing is in this here row wise, whatever row is there, no dimensions we can call it as it is row dimension, and this is column dimension. Column dimension. Row dimension means this one. Column dimension means this one. 2, 4, 7 column, one column. 3, 5, 8 one column. 4, 6, 9 is another column. So dimensions rows and columns. These are the two dimensions, but in two-dimension array, dimensions are called as axes. Okay, dimensions are called as axes in two-dimension array. So here completely column part is axis equals to 0. Here I'm using completely column part is what, axis equals to 0, and row part is what, actually here row part, this is the row part, axis equals to 1. This is row part and column part. Okay, so this is row part and column part here. Row part and column part. Just comment I'm giving. Axis equals to 1 in the sense rows. Axis equals to 0 in the sense columns. Okay, so in two-dimensional that is possible. Rows and columns axis we can treat. Why we are saying this axis equals 0 and axis equal to 1 in the sense, I want to find out in this array, complete array, maximum elements a dot max, a dot max. What is the maximum number of element here? 9. 9 is the maximum number of element. Next I want to find out here, print a dot minimum. So minimum element is what? This one, 2. And no matter it is, we can able to uh, find we can able to give minus values also. Yes. So now this time maximum value 9, minimum value -8. This is complete array through we are getting a dot sum of the array. Sum of that in the sense complete total number of elements are 22. But you can able to give only 5 and 8 also include, then it is 48 will be there. So maximum of the elements. And now I want to find out row wise maximum element. Row wise in the sense this row maximum element is how much? 4. This row maximum element is 6. This row maximum element is 7. I want to find out how it is possible. Print a dot max of row wise in the sense row means axis equals to 1. Row wise means this is row wise, axis equals to 1. So each and every row wise axis will be 1. So here 4 6 9 is there. 4 is the first row maximum element, 6 is the second row maximum element, 9 is the third row maximum element. Row wise maximum element. Print a dot max of axis equals to 0. 0 in the sense column wise maximum element. 2 4 7. What is the maximum element? 7. Here 8. Here 9. Next, similarly we can able to find out a dot min of axis equals to 1. Axis equals to 1. So this is clearly axis equals to 1. Axis equals to 1 in the sense what? Row wise minimum element. 2 is the minimum element. Here 4 is the minimum element. Here 7 is the minimum element. Similarly, print a dot minimum of axis equals to 1. So maximum element, minimum element row wise and it is column wise. Column wise minimum element 2, 3, 4 obviously. So this is what we are getting: row wise maximum element, column wise maximum element, row wise minimum element, column wise minimum element based on axis, and some of the elements minimum complete out of total array minimum and maximum we can able to find out like this. So this is what just operations of two-dimensional array. So you can, it is possible to create two more arrays and we can able to directly combine with every element will be added here. Suppose I'm creating one more array like B, one more array I want to create B. So values will be changed here 1, 7, uh, 1. Here also I'll change 3 or 5. So we can able to print all those values directly. Arithmetic operations we can perform easily. So two arrays also. So a plus b, clearly it is available. So two arrays will be added here. 2 plus 1 3, 3 plus 3 6, 3 plus 4 7, like this, two arrays. So any arithmetic operation we can able to do easily using two-dimension array by adding directly here. So okay, minus b also. Then what we can say, a star b also. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. A star b. So what happened? A star star b means, so look at here, a star star b. So the operations will be simple. So a star star b, 2 power 1, 3 power 3, 3 power 4, like this it will be available here. Okay, like next we can able to do this multi-dimension array. So that is two-dimension array. So we can able to flatten into single dimension array. That means we can convert that, we can completely make this two-dimension array into single dimension format. How to uh, make this two-dimension array into single dimension array format? So there is a flatten method. We have to be, for example, here b equals to a dot flatten, or else a dot flatten. So flatten is a method, so which is going to be convert this completely two-dimension array into single dimension. Print b. So here print a. So A is two-dimension array, and after that it is converted into what, single dimension array format by using what, flatten method here we can say. So this is what NumPy array with the two dimension, with single dimension, and normal array module with the type code we can able to create. So this is array process in Python script. So next I'm going to start most important things in Python. So that is object oriented programming. So what is object oriented programming? And as I told in the introduction sessions, Python is object oriented programming language. Why? Because it supports uh, features, main important features like encapsulation, polymorphism, abstraction, and inheritance. So what is the main importance of object oriented? For example, if our programming language is object oriented programming, then what is the main advantages? Actually, the first advantage is we can able to provide security to our code. So security is important for logic code. So how if I maintain some class code, but someone wants to access that code, so how we can able to provide accessibility with secured way or without secured way? We can decide. We can able to provide some restriction also. So that possibility is there with object oriented. Securely we can able to maintain our code. Then next, another important advantage is reusability. So code reusability is possible with object oriented with clearly. Once we written logic code, once we have implemented class code, that we can able to reuse in any other classes also, no problem at all. In any other application also, reusability is possible. So it is saving a lot of time with reusability. So we need not to develop again and again logic code. So directly once we develop, we can able to use directly here. So that is reusability. Next one is application enhancement. Application enhancement. So what is application enhancement? So as per the code, as per the requirement, we implemented the logic, but as per client requirement, we have to extend our application code. So by adding some more features, so that is application enhancement is possible. So these are the main important advantages of object-oriented programming. So security is possible, reusability is possible, application enhancement is possible. So in object-oriented programming, mainly we need to talk about class and object. class and object. So these are the important thing: class and object. Class and object. So what is class actually here? So class is a collection of objects, or class is a collection of variables and methods, or we can say member variables and member methods. We can say class. Class is a collection of object, or class is a collection of member variables and member methods. Class is a collection of member variables and member methods. Member variables and member methods. So variables and methods, we can say classes, or else class is collection of objects, we can say. Okay. Next, uh, how to create a class in Python according to syntax, we'll follow that. But what is an object? Object is an instance of class. Object is an instance of class, or it is used to represent a class. It is used to represent a class. Who will represent a class means object. Okay, so it's completely object oriented. So object through we have to represent the class actually here. So object is an instance of class, or it is used to refer the class or represent a class. So class is a model, or class is a blueprint. Class is a what we can say plan. But there is no object means no use of class. So object is required compulsory. So we have to represent that model. We have to represent that plan. So some object is required. Okay. For example, car design is a model, but car is an object. So for example, you can say a bird is a class. Parrot is an object for the bird class. So that is class object relation actually here. Apart from class and object, apart from class and object, any programming language wants to become as object oriented. Any programming language wants to become as object oriented, that must and should be satisfy following features. That must and should be satisfy following features. That is, first one is encapsulation. Encapsulation. Second one is abstraction. Abstraction. Next, polymorphism. Polymorphism. Next, inheritance. Inheritance. We can say that. So features of object oriented are these. Apart from class and object, any programming language wants to become as object oriented, that must and should be satisfy the following features like encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance. So let's discuss basic idea about, I'll give basic idea about this encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance. But in coming session, we will discuss in detail each and every feature with practical implementation. Where do we use in reality actually? So first encapsulation, we'll see this. So encapsulation is the process. Encapsulation is the process of providing restriction to the access of variables and methods. Encapsulation is the process of providing restriction to the access of variables and methods. We have a variables and methods in the class, but we have to provide restriction to the access for security purpose. For example, I have a class. In that class, completely public variables are there. Public variables, public methods are there. So any class can able to access these public variables and public methods. So I want to make that do not access, because once data is available in that variables and methods, then we cannot able to modify, we cannot able to change. Public variables, public methods we can able to change. So modification should not allow means we can provide restriction to the access variables and methods. For what purpose? For do not modify from explicitly. So modification should not allow. In that case, we can provide restriction. So this process is called encapsulation. Encapsulation is the process of providing restriction to the access of variables and methods. For what purpose we use encapsulation? To avoid from modification explicitly, to avoid from modification by accidentally. In case by mistake, if you are doing try to modification, that should not affect actually. So that is encapsulation process. Okay. So how it is possible with practical, later I'll show you, don't worry. But now coming to the abstraction. Abstraction is the process of abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation, hiding the implementation, but providing service. Hiding the implementation, but providing service. Abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation but providing service. Why we should hide the implementation? Suppose I have some logic code. I implemented that. So that logic code, I feel that secured. So no one should access that. So what I can do, I can hide that implementation, but I can provide a result or service to other classes. So only other classes can get that result and service, but they cannot know that what was there in that. So we are hide the implementation, but we are providing security to the data. We are providing access to the other classes. So abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation but providing service. Hiding the implementation but providing service. Hiding means we will not show complete implementation. We will hide complete information and we will show result to the other classes. Other classes can get only result, but they cannot know what was there in that, what implemented exactly. Due to security purpose, we use abstraction feature here. Next, polymorphism means here in this polymorphism, poly means many and the morph means forms or behavior. Forms or behavior. Poly means many and morph means forms or behavior. In polymorphism, an operator or function, for example, if we take any operator, plus operator, we take an operator or function will show different behavior according to the situation. For example, plus is an operator. It will act arithmetic addition and as well as it will act uh, what we can say concatenation. So one operator will show different behavior according to the situation. So this is polymorphism nature. So poly means many and morph means behavior. An operator or function will show different behavior when we change data types of arguments or when we change number of arguments. For example, one function is there. That function is having parameters, two into parameters. We have to supply integer values. And same function is there. One int, one float is there. So two is different parameters, one float, one int. So behavioral changes will be there. That is polymorphism nature. So the best example of polymorphism is human beings. For example, human beings means a person will act differently in front of their parents and same person will act differently in front of their friends. So like according to situation they'll behave. So that is polymorphism nature here. So how many types of polymorphisms can be there? Two types actually here. Static polymorphism and next one is dynamic polymorphism. Dynamic. So static polymorphism can be achieved using concept called function overloading. Yes, we can achieve the concept static polymorphism using function overloading. Dynamic polymorphism we can achieve using function overriding. Function overriding through we can able to achieve. So overloading and overriding means what? Simple. If a function is having already some work to do, again we are assigning some other task to the same function, then that function is said to be overloaded function because extra task we have assigned, no? So that should do that. This is function overload. Function overriding means if a function is having already some work to do, again we need not to assign some other work. We are going to cancel that existing work, but we are giving new task, newly assigned task. That is function overriding, we can say that. So function overloading, function overriding. So this is two topics are there in polymorphism to achieve static and dynamic polymorphism. So function overloading is a refinement technique. Completely keep on you have to change. Function overriding is a replacement technique. Replace in the sense completely we are modifying the data. So completely we are changing the functionalities. So this is polymorphism nature. So in this polymorphism, we need to talk about overloading and overriding only. So what is inheritance actually? Inheritance is also one of the best feature in object-oriented. Inheritance is the process of inheritance is the process of creating new class from existing class. Inheritance is the process of creating new class from existing class. Existing class, for example, class A. We are creating new class. This is inheritance symbol. Class B. Class B. Class B is inherited from what? A. So it is the process of creating new class from existing class. In here, existing class is what? A. New class is what? B. This existing class is treated as base class. Newly created class is treated as derived class. Or else we can say it is parent class. Parent. And it is child class. Next here, super class. Here it is subclass. Like, so if we say base class, we have to say derived. And if you say parent class, you have to say child. If it's a super class, and you have to say subclass. So this is inheritance. It's a process of creating new class from existing class. So what is the main advantage of inheritance is we have to what we can say, we can extend the features with the derived class. That means whatever the implementation is there, that can be able to access in the B. So child class can able to access all features from parent class. So application extension is possible with inheritance, and code reusability is possible. Whatever the code we implemented in class A, that can be easily to access in directly in B. So this is code reusability and application enhancement is possible with inheritance. But there are different types of inheritance are there. So one is single inheritance, single, and next one is multiple, next multi-level, and hybrid. So single means creating new class from single base class. Single base class means a only base class. I'm creating new class, that is single class, single inheritance. Multiple means creating new class from two or more base classes. Here base level two classes are there and derived level only one, A and B and C. A, B are base classes. C is derived class. Creating new class from two or more base classes. That is called multiple. Multi-level in the sense creating new class from already derived class. Already derived class means A is available base class, B is derived from A, C is derived from B. So that means already derived class is what here? B. B is derived from where? A. But again we are trying to create one more class C. So create multi-level inheritance means creating new class from already derived class. From already derived class is what? B. Hybrid is the combination of multiple as well as multi-level. Both combination we can say hybrid. So like this hybrid. A, B, and C here. C, multi-level, multiple, and D, multiple. This is multiple and this is multi-level. A and C and D is multi-level, we can say that. So this is hybrid inheritance. It is the combination of both multiple and multi-level. Okay. So this is basic introduction of object-oriented. So these are the important features are there in object-oriented according to class and object and with object-oriented. But here in this, before going to start programming part in object-oriented, first of all, you should know how to create a class. Okay. So in Python, there is different syntax to create a class. So here I'm showing syntax to create a class. Syntax to create a class. How to create a class here? It's very simple. Class keyword, then after that class name, colon. That's it. This is syntax to create a class in Python. Class is a keyword, space class name. So you must and should give some colon here. Similarly, who will represent this class? Object. So how to create object for the class also required. Syntax to create object to class. Syntax to create object to class. Here syntax is what here? Object reference variable equals to class name directly. Suppose here class name is student. Object reference variable is s equals to class name is what? Student. So here what is object? S is an object. That's it. So creating class is this, and creating object for that class is this. Is the way in object oriented programming. So class creation means class student, and object creation means object reference variable equals to class name. Object reference variable is what? S, and class name is what? Student. That's it. So this is called object of the student class. Okay, let's try to create one simple example first program in object oriented. So I want to create a student class and I want to display student details by creating object for student class. How to do that? Okay, simple logic. So I'll say you, just wait. First program of object oriented. So let's try to create class. Student is my class name, and now you can see I'm going to take one important thing. This is what? DEF. Generally DEF keyword can be used to define a function or method. So this is what a special method we can say. This is called constructor in object oriented programming. Class, constructor in class. So I'll tell what exactly constructor and what is self variable, all those things by tomorrow session, no problem. But DEF underscore underscore init underscore underscore, it is a constructor. So constructor is used to initialize the data to the variables, and self is the default variable and first variable of the constructor here. So self. So self is used to access current class objects, So it is very similar to this keyword in Java and .NET. So people will use in Java and .NET this keyword, no? This is used to represent current class members. Similarly in Python we use what? Self variable, self. So def underscore underscore init self colon. This is what? Constructor. So next self dot. So using self only we have to access like this. So student id sid equals to, I'm giving 1 2 3 4 self dot s name, student name. So like this, s self dot s address, student address, like this. So these are the details of the student. Okay, so this is what constructor. And now I would like to print the student details. How to print the student details? For that I'm taking one method called display method. Display method. Here I want to print student ID. Student ID is self dot sid. Print student name. Student name is self dot s name. Print student address is self dot s address, like this. So we have display method to display student details, and we have constructor to initialize the data to the data fields. This data will be assigned to SID. Here it is assigned to his name. HYD will be assigned to S address. That is assigning values. So this constructor is used to initialize the variables and assigning data to the variables. That is the purpose of constructor here. But now class is ready. But when we execute this directly, so is this any output? No. Is there any output? No. Now you can see. So class is a model or blueprint or plan or design, but we have to represent that class. Who will represent that class? Object. So is there any object creation? No. How to create object? Object reference variable S. It's my class name is called what? Student. That's it. Then we have to call what method? Display method. S dot display method. S is object reference variable and display method I'm calling. As soon as when we call the display method, you can see we got an output like this. Student ID is 1234. Student name is Raj. Student address is HYD. Suppose what happen if I try to create one more object? Yes, we can able to create any number of objects to the class. Okay, one class we can able to create any number of s1 equals to student. Here I'm trying to print s1 dot display. So let's try to run this. We got output what? Same. So two times we got same output because for every object, every time for every object constructor will call once. So here constructor is calling inside the constructor what data is there? Same data 1234 Raj HYD. So again and again, how many number of objects we created, same data is going to display. So I want to display different details, how it is possible. Yes, we can do that. For every object reference, we can display different details. But instead of the constructor data directly, so we should not initialize this data. So we can take some parameterized constructor. So parameterized constructor means here SID, SName, SAddress, SAddress. So here these parameters we can supply to here SID and SName, SAddress like this. So this is possible with different object creation, different employee details. But look at here, as soon as when we create object, who will invoked means constructor is invoked compulsory. So constructor is invoked automatically when we create object to the class. So as when we create object to this class, as then constructor will call in constructor. So data is not there. We are having parameters. So data we have to pass like this 101 and name and address. Here one student details and 102 name and address. So this is other student details like this. So as soon as when we create an object for this class, constructor will call and constructor will get 101 here, SAI here, HYD here. When we create new object here, 102 goes to here, Durga is there, SR Nagar. Based on the values will be assigned. Right side values will be assigned to left hand side. So left hand side that is actual data fields, right hand side that is parameters. But is that required both should be same? No. Here SID, here SID same, but here no need to same. We can take XYZ also here in the parameters. But let's try to execute this. So we got different details for every object. First object 101 and SAIHYD. Second object is this one here. So this is parameterized constructor. But no matter what values you are taking, it doesn't matter here. So you can take like this also. Just wait XYZ also you can take. But parameters must be required if you want to display new details. X and we are assigning here Y and Z. That's it. Actual fields are what? SID, name, S address. We are printing like this. So we got like this output similarly. In different aspects we are going to. But here in display method we have different things are there, no? So student ID, student name, student address. So three lines we given. But why don't we give that all student details in one line is possible? Yes, you can see we can print directly self.sid, self.sid, then self.sname, sname, then self dot what we can say s address. So this is also possible without a description. So it's possible to create 101 SAIHYD, 102 Durga SR Nagar directly here. So what happen if I'm not having any display method? So we don't have any display method. Okay, we don't have any display method, but I want to print these two object difference data. How it is possible? So there is no display method, no. So how it is possible to display? Yes, we can. We are trying to display here constructor data only. So this is constructor data. So I want to display constructor data. How to display? Simple, s dot underscore underscore dictionary dict, and simply again here print s dot underscore underscore s1 dot underscore underscore dictionary. So here dictionary through we are printing. So no matter we don't have any method actually, but if we are not having any methods up to display separately, we are printing through dictionary values. It's possible here. So whether it is parameterized constructor or normal constructor, we can able to print dictionary through here. Okay, so this is dictionary through. So this is what creating class and creating object for the class, and accessing student class, student variables, all those things, student methods. How to access? This is the way to here. Different ways: with constructor, without constructor. Sorry, with constructor, direct data; with constructor, with parameterized; and without method. With method, we can able to print by creating number of objects. Any number of objects we can able to create for one class. Okay, and moreover, we can see uh, for example, class is there, one class I created. My description I maintain here. Just for example, this class is for this class is for student details. This is my description about the class or document string. How to get this document string from the class? We can able to get any description or any documentation string from that class. There are two ways. One is print class name dot doc, or else print help doc. So there are two ways to get class description. One is print class name dot underscore underscore doc. Next, directly help class name. Two ways to get information from the class. That means class description. So I have written description, I want to get that. So what is the class name here? Student dot underscore underscore doc. So let's try to get this. So we got the class description. This class is for student details, or else we can able to get like help method also. Help of class name. What is class name? Student. So let's try to run this. So we got here help class through. So any help on class student in module, it is main module, because you know why it is going to be run individual class. So this is going to be written main, as I told in the module concept. If the variable is there, underscore underscore name equals to main, means it's going to be run in a main program. It's not going to depend on other module. So this is what to get what we can say a description about your class, whatever we have. So next we will discuss how to accept values at runtime in the methods also. So we have created just now constructor. Inside the constructor we have given values. That values will be assigned to the variables, and as soon as when we create object to the class, then constructor is invoked, constructor data is available. But not like that. I want to accept complete values at runtime. So I have to ask to enter the student details at runtime. I have to accept one by one. And after that same details I want to display back to the user. How it is possible? So that more things we will discuss in tomorrow's session. That is, what is constructor, what is self variable, difference between constructor and method is what kind of variables we can declare in the object oriented programming class. All those things we'll discuss in tomorrow's session.